And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25, the sports show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. I'm Dean Beckman, joined by Donnie Netto, the sports information director for the Cardinals. And Donnie, we had Ricky Palermo fill in for you last week. Glad you could make it back for this week's show. Feeling a little better today?
Yeah, I am. Ricky tried to kidnap me. He said he wanted to come on again. So obviously he must have done a great job, and appreciate him filling in. And we're ready to rock and roll here.
What I said is, geez, I'm not used to looking at someone so young, so handsome, and with so much hair.
There you go. All three of those are very, very true. So, it was tough to be gone last week. I missed being on the show, but Ricky filled in just fine.
All right. No, it's good to have you back. And on this week's show, during our interview segment, women's softball will be the feature with Jen Miller, the head coach for the softball team. Jen will be on. They played terrific on their spring break trip down to Florida. They went 8-2, as we highlighted on this show last week. So we'll talk some more with Jen about that and kind of a preview of this upcoming season.
Yeah, it's really been a busy beginning of the year for them with not only the 8-2, and then they played 4 games in Rochester the following weekend. So I know she gave the athletes a couple of days off here this week, and I'm sure that they enjoyed that as much as they enjoyed the 70-degree weather yesterday that allowed them to get outside and practice. So Mother Nature so far has been very kind to our spring sports, but you just are kind of waiting, knowing that she's going to have her wrap yet.
And then Ricky Palermo will be back on today's show in a different capacity, however. He's going to be giving us our student-athlete spotlight at the end of the program today. And Joe Seegers, the starting shortstop for the baseball team, is featured. And Donnie, that's a kind of a good segment, very original this time around.
It absolutely is. I really enjoyed it, and Ricky did a really good job with it, and it's very interesting to hear Joe's background in that he's been homeschooled his whole life until college. So kind of a neat story there, and he actually is from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, which has 5 O's in it. So you learn that as well.
They'll even spell it for you. All right. So, but before we get to all of that and bring Jen Miller on the program, Donnie, men's hockey, because they had 3 players land on first team all MIAC. And let's start out with Jay Heinley, because tell you, once you give a guy a chance to score a goal, he just doesn't stop, it seems like, and that's what happened with Jay this year.
We talked a lot this year about that, and as a freshman last year, Jay had 8 points, and they were all assists. He didn't score a goal, and this year he's just been, he had a phenomenal year. He led the team in goals, and certainly a deserving all-conference honor. And I think that the neat thing for the Cardinal men is that, for a team that finished 6th in the conference, to have 3 people on the first team All-MIC says a lot about the talent that Coach Moore has, and I know talking to Billy a lot this year, a break here or there, and they certainly could have been playing for a regular season and a postseason conference title, and it's the thing that happens in any sport, and we certainly can talk to Jen about it when she's on, and that you need some breaks. The year before, when we made the playoff run in men's hockey, no injuries all year. This year, lots of injuries, and it certainly took its toll. And so, you kind of got to wade through that minefield that is injuries and illnesses, and getting your players to play at their best level. And he certainly did that on an individual basis with 3 people getting all conference. And Jay, certainly, you got to tip your cap to him.
Yeah, and then of course Marty Gruss, Bob Kinney were the other 2, and the way Bob Kinney is starting out in baseball, he might do that in the baseball season as well.
Absolutely. Bob he's a great story. I mean, I know we've had him on here, and he's a fantastic individual, but to be all conference in hockey, kind of everybody expected that. But what he's doing on the baseball field is absolutely incredible when you consider that he hasn't played ball since high school, which is 3-4 years ago. So for him to be able to pick up a bat and do what he's doing, and shows the kind of athlete he is. Marty is he's a phenom. I mean, he's a great hockey player, and certainly deserving of his second all conference honor. Certainly will be up for All-American honors, and hopefully he gets those again as well, because again, a phenomenal year. He had over 30 points for the second year in a row, and you've got to just applaud the effort and the performance that he and those other 2 individuals had this year.
Yep. All right, so let's go to track and field now, Donnie, because the MIAC championships were last weekend, and both the women's and men's team put in outstanding performances. In particular, Morris Dennis and Maria Mizzarelli both set school records in the MIAC championships.
Yeah, there were tons of great performances, but this is certainly a time that you've got to single out Maria and Morris because they just had phenomenal performances. Morris in the 400 and then Maria in the pole vault. Maria finished third last year in the pole vault. This year she finished second and actually tied in height with the person that won it, but took more attempts to clear 3.35 meters than the person that won it. So she finished second, earned all conference honors there. And Morris in the 400, that's his event. That's what he qualified in the Nationals Outdoors last year, and certainly is just picking up where he left off and had an injury-free indoor season this year, which is good because last year he did have some nagging injuries, and you know, he's one of those that you expect this from now, and it's kind of unfortunate you break a record and it's almost like it's expected of you, and you know, Morris is a great performer, and really one of those people that once outdoors sets up now, you know, we talk a lot about the differences between indoor and outdoor track and field, and really in an event like Morris runs the 400, it is a completely different race because outdoors it's one time around the track, indoors it's twice, so you've got to make the turns two extra times, and with Morris's big frame, that's certainly harder for him to do. So I look for him to really excel outdoors, and I'm very excited about what he can do.
And that men's 4x200 relay team came this close to setting a school
very,
record.
very close. And you've also got to look at Brian Ortman. Had a great job, did a great job in both the long jump and the triple jump, earning honorable mention all conference honors. So there were just a ton of great performances. Now I know they get to take a little bit of time here and kind of recoup. But April 2nd, they're back at it because they've got a home meet on April 2nd. And so the outdoor season is really less than a month away. So
And one more individual performance there, Becca Dupe, 6th in the long jump, right?
Yeah, and we talked about, you know, Becca is a great story as well because, you know, she's never long jumped before this year. Coach Anderson saw in her that she'd have the ability to do that, and really, you know, she's just learning how to do that, and for her to finish 6th is, you know, certainly a great way to kick off her freshman indoor season. And like a lot of these people, the outdoor season is just going to be a continuation of great performances.
Yeah. All right, let's go to tennis now, and they've started up play once again coming off of their spring break. And the women's tennis team, an exciting win over Winona State 5-4 before falling to St. Thomas.
Yeah, it's a big, you know, anytime you can beat Winona State, it certainly is it's a fun rivalry, and I know that Jeff hasn't played Winona State in a number of years here, so they picked it back up this year and came away with a 5-4 win, and you know, it's a big win. Anytime you can beat a Division II program, that's certainly a feather in your cap. St. Thomas, the best of the best. You know, you look at Gustavus and St. Thomas in women's tennis, and they are the top of the heap. And St. Mary's just didn't have the depth or the firepower to compete with them. Laura Sonde on the women's side has just had a great freshman start to her freshman year. Won her first 7 matches before losing both of her matches at Winona State and St. Thomas. But what a great start! 7-2 after 9 matches. I know Coach Hallberg certainly is happy with the way she's playing at #1 singles. Certainly great to have somebody of that talent at the top of his lineup.
A couple of road games coming up with St. Kate's and Concordia, so the conference play continues.
Conference play will really kind of kick in now. It's Jeff is most of the non-conference matches are kind of winding down now, and he'll get into the brunt of his conference schedule. The men, I tell you, they have, when he schedules the men, I'm not sure if he ever asks the men if you can handle this. You look at this weekend coming up, they've got 3 matches in 2 days. Friday night they play St. John's, and then they've got 2 non-conference matches on Saturday. Fortunately, their Sunday match got canceled, so it would have been 4 matches in 3 days. But you know, it's a lot of tennis in a short amount of time, and the advantage that Jeff has this year is he's got a lot of depth. So he's able to use a lot of different people, and hopefully they'll be able to come out with some victories this weekend.
All right, Donnie, before we bring Jen Miller, the softball coach, onto the program for the interview segment here, we want to get your reaction to the baseball team's trip to spring break. They went 8-2, just like the softball team did. And Ricky and I talked fairly extensively last week about it, but that was a strong start. And I think the pitching really stood out down there because that was an area they wanted to improve on. They have a new pitching coach this year, a new assistant coach, and at least early returns look good for the baseball team.
No question. I think that this is a year that you can expect big things from the Cardinals. They've got a lot of people returning. When we mentioned, the one that we mentioned was one that didn't play last year. But you look at some of the players they've got back, and when Ben Berkeley continues to do what Ben Berkeley does, it just boggles your mind. The guy is just a phenom, and he is a player that All-American last year, and just nothing phases him. The guy gets a hit every game. It's just the way it is. And I think that, so I think they have a lot of offensive punch, and you're right. I think pitching, they're very deep and very talented. I know you had Ben on last week, and Ben's going to be one of the aces, and he should be. He's been here 4 years. It's his last go around, and I expect him to do really well. And I think that if he can lead the way, and Jacob Dawson again, another one that these veteran players who've been through the ringer, they know what it takes. And to get off to a great start, you build that confidence. You're chomping at the bit. I know Coach Winicky has done a little maneuvering, and they'll actually play a couple of games this weekend. Where, we don't quite know yet, but they're going to play Scholastica on Saturday. So a huge regional game, and I know Winicky is excited about playing them, and the pitchers are going to be a key to that. And I think the pitcher that really has stuck out to me isn't even a starter, and that's Nathan Mathwig. I think that he has just done a phenomenal job already this year. He's picked up a couple of saves, a couple of wins in relief. So he's one of those that middle of your order, the middle of your pitching staff, the person that can come in and give you 2-3 innings of quality relief. That's going to be the key, right, I think, because our starters are very good, and now it's just a matter of making sure we can get from the starters to Nathan or maybe an AJ in the closer role. That's going to be the key to their success.
Donnie, you know who we need to say hello to here on the Cardinals Nest? Pat Jacobson, the former assistant baseball coach, still works for St. Mary's University, different capacity now. And I saw Pat this weekend, and he says he watches every single Cardinals Nest. I think it's because he misses you, Donnie.
That's absolutely. It's interesting that you do bring that up, because Jake did a great job here, and
he did, yes.
He certainly is missed, and I know that, and I know that he that he follows Cardinal baseball. He lives and breathes it. He played it. He was a member of the Cardinals, so baseball is very important to him, and I know it was tough for him to leave, but he'll always be a part of the baseball family, and we certainly do miss him here, but. I got to tip my cap to TJ. TJ Oaks is doing a great job, and Jake, you're gone, but definitely not forgotten.
You'll always be a part of the Cardinals.
That's right.
All right. When we come back here on HBC, we'll have Jen Miller, the softball coach, on the program. That's next here on TV 25, the Cardinals Nest.
Want the latest news on St. Mary's University athletics? Watch the Cardinals Nest on HBC TV 25. Dean Beckman and SMU Sports Information Director Donnie Netto will talk about the past week in Cardinal athletics, highlighting the best in each Cardinal sports team. Player and coach guests will add their stories and insight each week with new shows Thursdays at 5 p.m. and replays Fridays at 6:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 7:30 a.m. on HBC TV 25.
And welcome back to the Cardinals Nest here on HBC. Joining us now is Jen Miller, the softball coach for the Cardinals. And Jen, 10 years now you've been at St. Mary's, right?
Yep, 10 years as head coach.
Wow, does it seem like it? Tell us how you think you've sort of progressed in those 10 years as a head coach.
Sure. Well, I started as a player, so I was there for 4 years, and I was assistant coach for 4 years, and now 10 years as head coach, and it's been a good ride.
So it's kind of like 18 years.
Yeah.
If you think of it
So
way.
been here for a while, but love it. That's why I haven't left.
Yeah,
so.
good.
Yeah.
Jen, can you talk a little bit about building off of that? To talk a little bit about what's changed. Like you said, you played here for 4 years. You got the national championship ring. Worked under Coach Fenner when she was the head coach, and then became the head coach. Since you took over as the head coach 10 years ago to now, what's kind of been the biggest difference in the game itself?
Sure. The game itself, I think, has the hitters have gotten a lot better. We've changed the bats. They're hitting the ball a little bit harder, so the hitters are taking over a little bit more than I think. It's not as much of a pitcher's game as it used to be. So I think offensively the game has kind of exploded that way. Scoring more runs, more balls are going over the fence, so able to move runners over on bunts and play the short game a little bit.
Why do you think that is? I mean, is it they're catching up to some of the different types of pitches. What would be some of the reasons for the explosion in offense?
Sure. I think the different bat companies are coming out with some different bat compression. We have to get bat testing all the time to make sure our bats aren't too hot. And I think just the way we're teaching hitting now, we're able to drive the ball a little bit harder. And go from there.
I don't know about you, Donnie, but I can't find a bat that helps my hitting. I wish I could get hold of some of those bats.
How about you guys? Because offensively, you guys are playing very well. Talk a little bit about the spring trip. Let's just go there first. And how important that trip is for you guys, and two, what you took out of it as a coach in terms of what you liked and what you didn't like.
The spring trip was good. We finished 8-2. We were able to hit the ball, pick some good pitches to go with. I think our lineup from top to bottom is full of some good hitters. So if they can find some good pitches, move some runners around. There were some games we left some runners stranded on the bases, but I think otherwise we were driving the ball, hit it to the field, make a play is what I always tell my hitters to, hey, put it in play, make the defense make a play. And that's the only way we can score runs, so definitely. Our pitchers did well. We pitched all 4 pitchers while we were down there. So that was well received, and our defense really stepped up. We have some first years playing right now for us in the field, but also returners being able to move and being able to still play the way they should be playing.
What's your approach to those games? Do you try, because they count as part of your overall record, and so obviously you want to try to win. Is it a time to experiment a little bit with different lineups or players at different positions, or do you try to have that set and predetermined before you go in?
Before we go in, we kind of we have a preset lineup to start, but the trip is a way, like you said, maybe if something's not working, it's a way to move some people around. Obviously, like you said, you want the wins, but you're able to, hopefully, if you're getting some runs scored like we had in the first couple games, we were able to get a lot of different people in the games. I think I was able to put everybody in at least for an at-bat or an inning on our spring trip, which is very nice for us to be able to do that with a team of 20 athletes, so that was good. And I think just a way for us to see what we got. I mean, once we get to conference season, our conference is very good, so we want to make sure we're ready once that starts.
You have so many veterans returning that are talented, especially on the offensive side. Talk a little bit about Mariah Harper. Conference Player of the Week, but what a great start. I mean, she batted .611 in Florida. I mean, that's just incredible, especially from the 9 spot.
Yep, definitely. So she was able to, in the 9 spot, find some good pitches to hit and really drive that ball to the outfield. She didn't do a ton of slapping or bunting. She was really just power hitting from that 9 spot, but allowing her to hit in the 9 and then Stanzi to hit in the 1. So you have a lefty-lefty 9-1 lineup, so they can play a couple of games if they both get on, play some games on the bases. So she hit well. She found good pitches. Confidence was great, and she's been a good senior team leader right now. So.
And Ashley Betzold at the plate
as
well as on the mound.
Yep.
She's doing the job there too, it looks like, early on.
Yep, she's a very good player. She's able to get the job done on the mound. We were able to get her off the mound for a couple innings on the spring trip, which is nice. So we had our other 3 pitchers able to step up. And then at the plate, she's always a good hitter. If she can find some good pitches to hit, she's doing well.
Yeah.
A couple of individuals that played last year, but maybe not in such a role that they are this year. I guess I'm looking at Allie Borowski and Brittany Burkhauser. I mean, both of those have really started the season off strong, and I know that you're kind of expecting a little more from them than maybe you had to last year.
Sure. Yep, last year we had a good group of first-year players. When I knew once I got a season under their belt, that they were able to step it up this year. So Britt's actually moved over to short, and Allie's actually moved from third to first base. So they were more than willing to take on a new defensive position, and they did a ton of work in the offseason, which our team, I believe, does a great job in the offseason, gets in the cages, gets some work done when the coaches can't work with them. So they put in a lot of time in the offseason, which has paid off for them.
Talk about some of the other players that you're sort of looking to for some leadership this year. I would imagine Kathy Opsahl is one. She's off to a great start. And Callie Aldrich, even though she's a younger player, very talented, very versatile, and a great athlete.
Definitely. And Kathy hit a home run on the spring trip. Britt Burkhauser hit a home run. Katie Kroll hit a grand slam on our trip. So they're hitting the ball well. But once we get, I think everyone from top to bottom in our roster can do the job. So as long as we're working hard, that they should get the job done. So.
And then, of course, you had the Rochester tournament, too. We played in the Rochester Dome there and went three wins, just one loss in that 4-game set. Tell us about that.
Yep. So that was good. We were able to score some runs in that tournament, which was good for us. It was nice to see that after coming back from a week in Florida and then playing 2 days later, for our girls to still get a 3-1 record, which is pretty good. And they were able to rebound. We were late there one night and early the next morning and got a couple hours of sleep, and we should have slept at the Dome, but they wouldn't let us. So, but they did well. We scored some runs there, got some good innings from Abby Killian on the mound, so we could keep Ashley off the mound for a couple games there. So it worked in our favor, definitely.
And then talk a little bit now, because now you do have a little bit of a break. You don't play again until the 30th of April,
Yep.
I think you've got Luther.
March 30th. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
March. Thank
Yep,
you.
that's okay.
Not
That's
April.
right.
But now, what do you do? How do they keep? How do you keep sharp? It's nice that you're able to get outside, but you've got a 2-week break here where
Definitely.
you don't have a game.
Yep, so we'll kind of go back to, we'll start back with the fundamentals, kind of do some skill building there, just go back to where we started, kind of build up again with that. We'll give them a couple days off, which normally they don't get a lot of days off during softball season. So this year they'll get kind of weekend off, and then they'll get some days off over Easter. But just to like we were telling our team the other day, we try to make sure that our practice plans are never the same. So every day you're doing a different practice plan. Up till now, we haven't done a single same practice yet in the season. So try to keep them sharp that way, keep them interested, play a couple different cage games, etc. to keep them going. So
Jen, a couple of times now you brought up it's how nice it's been to utilize different pitchers, both in Rochester and on the spring trip. Talk about fatigue, especially from Ashley's standpoint. Softball's different than baseball. Typically you use the same pitcher. Sometimes in a doubleheader you'll use the same pitcher, and usually from game to game. But certainly fatigue plays a factor. So maybe talk about how you try to determine when Ashley might be getting fatigued and what that's like in softball.
Sure. So in softball, Ashley could, in theory, pitch every game of the season. But as she's been pitching, she's a junior now, so pitching the last 2 years, a lot of the innings, we're trying to get her off the mound just a little bit more because your arm does get tired. So by the end of the trip, her arm was getting a little fatigued, and that was 10 games in 1 week. So on the trip, on this weekend in the Dome, we were able to pitch her one day and give her the next day off. So just trying to make sure their arm is still loose, because once we get to conference season, you got to win all those games to make the tournament. So trying to give her a little bit more time off there. But she'll kind of let us know, but she'll go if she needs to go. If you tell her she needs to pitch, she'll get on the mound.
I want to give Donnie the last question,
Sure.
but before we get to that, real quick, Sam Borowski, former player for you last year, now you're
Sure.
assistant
Yep,
coach,
definitely.
taking over for longtime assistant Carolyn Bray, who's in Nebraska now. So talk about Sam replacing Carolyn.
Sure. Sam, as a player, she was a very good coach. She was able to break the skills down. She's highly organized. She's been able to pick up a lot of the stuff that we've been doing, recruiting to scheduling to a lot of the other stuff. So she's done a great job. Always has a good attitude about it and ready to go. So she's been a good pickup for us and done a great job so far.
Good.
And she's not the only new one to the Cardinals softball family. Talk a little bit about the new baby.
Yeah.
Congratulations for one thing,
Thank
but
you.
talk a little bit about how that changes
Sure.
your whole dynamic of being a coach.
Yeah, so Elliot was born in September, so she's just about 6 months now. So it's just great to see her smiling, already got a glove on her hand, already doing some glove work. So and the team just loves her, so the team takes her in, and they love to see her every day. So it's been a good addition. Hopefully she'll end up being a great softball player, but we'll see.
A little too early to tell.
A little too early to tell.
I mean, you've got a good scouting eye.
Yes,
so.
definitely.
All right,
sure.
Jen Miller, softball coach. Team is off to an 11-3 start. Great to have you on the program. Good
Thank you.
luck the rest of the
Appreciate
year.
it. Thank you.
All right, stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. Ricky Palermo is coming up next with our Student Athlete Spotlight here on HBC.
Integrate your business communications services with HBC. You'll be connected to the area's leader in internet and data solutions with speeds up to 1 gigabit, not to mention the most customizable and reliable telephone network in the area. Your customers and guests will enjoy crystal clear video and audio throughout your business. HBC Professional Solutions customers receive consulting and IT support, conferencing solutions, fast, reliable cloud service, and more. Call 888-474-9995 to experience the HBC difference today.
And we're back here to wrap up the Cardinals Nest on HBC. Dean Beckman and Donnie Netto. And Donnie, it was great to have Jen on the program. Coming up next is our student athlete spotlight, and I keep wanting to say Bob Seeger, which I guess shows our era a little bit, right, Donnie? But it's Joe Seeger, the starting shortstop for the baseball team. Ricky Palermo will be talking with him, but so it's an interesting segment. But real quick, back to Jen. Great start to this softball season. They've got a really strong nucleus.
They really
there.
do, and I think she kind of hit on it in that this year especially, they're so powerful offensively, but got a great great group of pitchers, and Ashley's going to be the horse. But it's nice that she has a few people that she'll be able to rely on should Ashley need a break. And I think that is definitely going to be a key as the season wears on.
All right. So again, thanks for watching the Cardinals Nest here on HBC. Be sure to tune in again next week. Now here's Ricky Palermo with this week's Student Athlete Spotlight, the Cardinals Nest on HBC.
With Joe Seegers, he's a starting shortstop for the Cardinals. Now, Joe, would you start off just talking about yourself, where you're from, what's your major, and kind of what brought you to St. Mary's?
Well, I'm from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. It's right smack dab in the middle of Milwaukee and Madison for people who don't know that name. But
Now, can you spell Oconomowoc for us?
I can. Let's see here. Oconomowoc.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Okay,
The 5
so
O's right there.
yeah, it's a joy to say in itself. Can you what brought you to St. Mary's?
What brought me to St. Mary's is definitely the beautiful landscape here, but also getting recruited from Coach Winnicky and just feeling very at home here when I came to campus. So that's kind of how I made my choice to come here.
You were homeschooled through high school, correct?
Yep.
So what was that like? Was it at your house? Was it at a neighbor's house? And tell us a little bit about
It
that.
all really depended on what we were doing for that day. Like for Spanish, we would go to another homeschooler's house and get taught by a local professor. And for chemistry, we would go over to my other friend's house who had a Bunsen burner and had a place so that all the chemicals wouldn't just be drifting off in their house. So that's where we did chemistry. But for pretty much everything else, we were at my house just working, doing all our schoolwork at our dinner table. Being homeschooled, if you got your work done, you could go off and do whatever you want. So my younger brother and I, we got done with our schoolwork at like noon. We'd be outside, or even just during school, my mom would have to call us in sometimes just because we'd lose track of time and just go outside and start playing baseball or basketball or something.
Oh, that's fun. So where did you play baseball? Because you were on a team. What was that like?
I actually played for our homeschool team, and there was a lot of mix of different kids there's a couple from Illinois actually that came to play. We were the only team in Wisconsin for homeschoolers, but we traveled all over. We've traveled to Florida, Tennessee, St. Louis for different games and tournaments and stuff, and just played whoever we could get scheduled with, who could schedule non-conference games.
Yeah, I'd support it. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we just got back from Florida. Literally a week ago, we were playing a game.
Yeah.
Can you believe that, first
Yeah.
of all? So how was the Florida trip?
Florida trip, it was great. Nice to soak up the sun there. Nice to get everybody in, getting playing time, getting those roles down, what we need to do as a team to kind of push us towards that next spot. Not be too result oriented at the time, but just go through that process of this is what we need to do each day, doing those little things good so we can prepare ourselves for later in the season.
Yeah, and you had a pretty good week down there in Florida. I think 14 for 32, something like that.
Something
and
like
you
that.
got MIAC Athlete of the Week. So, what was it like getting that honor?
Honestly, I had no idea until one of my teammates in the van driving back from our last game was like, "Siegs, you got MIAC Player of the Week." I was, what?
Yeah.
What does that even mean? I see this team doing very well. I honestly think that we are probably one of the best teams, and just all together as a group, we can just accomplish anything that we set our mind to.